Meanwhile, we spoke with Dave Weigel about Joe Biden on the campaign trail, and Bernie Sanders was on with John Carl on ABC this week. Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, the two front runners, although it's Elizabeth Warren is starting to pick up some attention on in the polls too. And again, it is very, very early. But here is Bernie comparing his approach to Joe Biden's approach.
I'm sure you saw Joe Biden say that he is the most progressive candidate in this race.
Well, look, Joe is a good friend of mine, and I'm not here to attack Joe. Joe voted for the war in Iraq. I led the effort against it. Joe voted for NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations, trade agreements with China. I led the effort against that. Joe voted for the deregulation of Wall Street. I voted against that. I think if you look at Joe's record and you look at my record, I don't think there's much question about who's more progressive.
And
I like Bernie's really, man. He's so committed this time because that face was just like, oh, okay. This is where I'm not at a delicatessen or the food court.
Bit of a disingenuous question, don't you think?
Bit disingenuous, but look, Joe is a good friend of mine. That's what
Right.
everybody says in these situations. And now, PNTR, Iraq, credit cards, or I could just say, are you fucking kidding me?
here is Bernie comparing his approach to Biden's in that same interview with John Carl on ABC this week on Sunday.
Well, one of those issues, obviously, is your proposal for Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Biden says that he would like to see a more incremental approach, fix Obamacare, provide a Medicare option for anybody, but allow people to still have private health insurance if they want. Why not do an approach like that?
I'll tell you why. Because the system today is truly dysfunctional. We are spending twice as much per capita on healthcare as do the people of any other country. Medicare right now is the most popular health insurance program in the country, but it only applies to people 65 years of age or older. All that I want to do is expand Medicare over a 4-year period to cover every man, woman, and child in this country.
But to do that, you would eliminate private health insurance.
For basic needs, yes.
So what do you say to the firefighter in Iowa who has a health plan that they like?
What I would say is that if you want a better program, a more comprehensive program, with no deductibles, with no copayments, with no premiums, which will cost your family less, support Medicare for all.
But there are some trade-offs, aren't there? I mean, are people
Pause
gonna-
it for 1 second.
That's a clear
First of
answer.
all, there's a couple of things that's interesting about this so far. One, only firefighters care about their health insurance. And
First responders.
sort of a fascinating thing. The people who provide that health insurance would probably be a government in some fashion. But nevertheless, it's also interesting to see that Bernie is not pushing, which I think is smart. And I don't know if it's how much of a change. It's a slight one. He is not making a big argument that this is the elimination of private insurance. He is now sort of saying for the basic stuff, which of course is the point. There's always this notion of a supplemental. And I think there's no reason to make this about eliminating private insurance as much as there is a reason to make private insurance obsolete. And that is a distinction with a difference. Because the agenda should not be to get rid of private insurance. Who cares? It should make it irrelevant. And if there are people who want to go out, I don't think you should have a fur sink. It seems impractical. But if you really want one, and that's the way you want to spend your money, God be with you. Now, I don't think we should have allow for so much wealth that people can buy a lot of fur sinks. But if you want to get one, be my guest. Continue.
Premiums, which will cost your family less, support Medicare for all.
But there are some trade-offs, aren't there? I mean, are people going to be able to see the doctor? Can you make that guarantee?
Absolutely.
Like Obama, you'll be able
Pause
to
it.
keep your doctor.
This is the strangest question to me. We're talking about getting rid of insurance. If you're providing health insurance for I don't know, let's just say 92% of the people in this country. The other 8%, they'll take the Medicare, but then they'll get their supplemental insurance so they can go see their doctor. There's not enough of those people to support this huge new medical industry. First of all, they're already getting concierge doctors. They're already, that has already almost been sorted out. But let's say you have more defectors from the Medicare system. And as consumers, as patients of medicine, there's so many suppliers that's going to support. So this idea that the vast majority of doctors, or even a significant minority of doctors, would opt out of the system is bizarre. The doctors aren't going away. They're all going to be there. And because you have a uniform system, as opposed to, this is the problem with the Affordable Care Act. It's because you're having it compete against other private insurers, and you're having these private insurers try and determine what is going to be the least expensive for them. And so they're the ones who are narrowing this stuff. This is why it happens. But the doctors aren't going to disappear. It's actually going to make it less likely you will lose your doctor because the doctor doesn't have that many options anymore. They can't opt out and just take one, insurance or another. Like, I could not go see, when I got my colonoscopy last year, I couldn't see the doctor that I saw the last time because my insurance would no longer pay for the anesthesiologist that apparently the doctor wanted to bring in so that he could do more business. And I had to go to a different doctor.
And isn't basically everyone in America familiar with that dynamic too?
I think people are, but they don't know what to attribute it to more often than not. And they know they don't like it. So they don't want to be, if this, like even the question implies that that's going to happen. It's like, if I was to ask Bernie, like, with this Medicare for all, how concerned would you be that people are going to have an anvil fall on their head when they go into the doctors? And as absurd as that premise is, if I say that enough, people are going to be like, wait, what's this whole thing with the anvil dropping on your head when you go into the doctor's office? I don't want that. And I know he keeps saying it's not going to happen, but why do they keep asking the question? There must be something to it.
Also, why doesn't anyone ever ask Joe Biden why he favors an incremental approach to insurance? I feel like the only people who ever get asked this question are the Medicare for all people, right? And it's especially galling considering the incremental approach has already been tried very recently and it hasn't gone that well.
People like it better than it was before. But, all right, let's continue.
But there are some trade-offs, aren't there? Are people going to be able to see the doctor? Can you make that guarantee?
Absolutely.
Like Obama did, you'll be able to keep your doctor?
Absolutely. Look, the truth is right now, you may have an insurance plan that the doctor you really like is not on that network.
Well, what if everybody wants to see Dr. Sanders here in Des Moines, and there's more people?
Well, that's the same problem you have today. If you have a very popular...
There have got to be trade-offs, though, right?
But that's... Look. If you have a popular doctor right now under your current policy,
pause it. This
literally just mentioned one thing that would not, no, single payer and having this healthcare system will not eliminate the problem of relative popularity in an overbooked practice. That's true.
John Carl, that question, there's got to be trade-offs, is, you know what that question communicates to me? I don't know this stuff enough.
But I know you're wrong.
No. It's
I need to sound challenging.
Yeah. Can you give me, I'm asking you for the critique because I don't quite have it.
That's another thing that's just really unfair and doctrinaire about Bernie Sanders, which is that he won't present dishonest criticisms of his own policies in national television.
But he does get out in front of the critiques. He always says, taxes will go up. He totally preempts that.
Right. And that's that's what Carl should have started with that, I guess. And that's probably why he doesn't. Go ahead.
Well, what if everybody wants to see Dr. Sanders here in Des Moines, and there's more people?
Well, that's the same problem you have today. If you have a very popular...
There have got to be trade-offs, though, right?
But that's... Look, if you have a popular doctor right now under your current policy, it may take you a while to get in there.
Look, Carl, I was a big fan of the free school, and...
But understand what could also be underneath that question, which is really, on some level, the deeply ideological problem with this.
Right.
Because, and that is, you're going to give everybody access to Dr. Sanders. And now the way we sort that out is a lot of people can't afford to see Dr. Sanders.
I get to
Yeah.
And
because
so-
I'm a TV host.
Yes, but if you make the popular doctors accessible to everyone, then how do we sort this stuff out is who deserves to see Dr. Sanders?
Yeah, people
Are we
actually,
really going to just let this go to chance? I mean, when some of us have earned more money and have proven our moral wealth and our moral deservedness to see Dr. Sanders, and you're just going to willy-nilly let anybody come in? That is, and I don't know if that's the way John Carl meant that, because the answer is obvious. Like, wait a second, popular doctors are hard to see. That happens now. But underneath that, and I don't know if that was John Carl's intention or certainly, but that is part of the criticism. I mean, like, this is what we've heard from like hardcore libertarians are the only ones who will basically articulate it. But it does drive this. It's that you're going to give like for them, this is the bug. What is the feature for people who want Medicare for all is sort of the bug for the right. And they can't quite articulate that because that makes them look like heartless human beings.
We have a great system that prices the poor out without us needing to do it hands-on.
Exactly. We can keep the riffraff out of here. We don't need to put a sign that says no riffraff.
But we have moral deniability. We have a plausible deniability, right? Exactly.
yeah, people act like care is not already being rationed by the market, and it is.
Of course.
That's 100. Right. Exactly. And also that, and as other people point out, that
But it's being rationed. It's being rationed with the rationale. Because when you care, when care is rationed, but when a system everybody has access to it, that gets a little bit like, what's the logic behind that? There's no
It's actually
merit.
funny
there's no
because but for
motivation to
these
work hard.
centrist types or whatever you want to call them, it's like that's another reason why Obamacare works for them so well, because it's one thing to go complete sociopathic and just like you don't get to have health care, but it's another to be like healthcare should be like air travel, like
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
sure. So I'm not saying that I want these people to just die, but I should have a much better experience, be more highly prioritized.
you
than
know,
them.
listen,
because
eh,
it's another.
There's only so many
product.
seats up in first class.
That's exactly. No,
And
that's
if they
the
were all the same
ideological
price,
appeal.
I mean, how would you?
Well,
That's the ideological.
It's people
appeal.
that are threatened by the concept of your money is no good here. And I
Right.
went to when I was in France a year ago. I had an issue with the person I was with had to go to the hospital, got IV treatments, got a bunch of tests done. We were there for like 12 hours in a hospital bed. And when we left, we're like, is there a bill we have to sign or anything like that? Nothing. They're just like, see ya. And that was an amazing experience. And there's certain people that want to be able to walk into a hospital room and make sure they can get like a nicer room or get in, cut lines because they've used to it with a certain type of insurance.
That's
And
exactly right.
That's a threat to them. It's
That's
a threat to
exactly
them.
right. And it's so funny how some of those people metabolize like going and seeing a system like that in France, and they're just sort of like, well, or isn't that interesting? And I get to take vacations and see that because I've worked so hard.
Let's go to the phone.